For tonight. The first one is bail for former Mayor John Flowers, who was a councillor at Cogra, Rockdale Council, and was the former mayor of Rockdale Council. My thoughts are with his family of his passing. And we will make arrangements to, when we know when the funeral is on, in terms of passing our condolences. I'm not sure when the funeral's on, but one thing about John was very passionate and a strong advocate for particularly Brightly Sands. Was a strong supporter of the fireworks. And I do recall many years ago in terms of good quality development and encouraging big units rather than the box size units. As I said before, on behalf of the council, I would like to offer our deepest condolences to his family, friends during this particular time. Councillor Sidrak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too commend your recognising of John Flowers. Not only was he a member of this council for many years, but also a state member of Rockdale. I've had a privilege of working with John, and he was always a decent man. He helped the community. He was a teacher by trade, and whether you liked him or not, or whether you're on a different side of politics, John was one of those people that would try to help anybody and everybody. And I just want to, again, recognise his amazing achievement for this area, as well as this council, and pay my respect and condolences to him, to his family, to our also Councillor Jan Brennan, who was previously part of this council as well. He will be remembered as a good man. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
Councillor Jensen. Jensen.
So it's with deep sadness that we learnt of the passing of Anthony Agis, who was a life member of the Mascot Netball Club. Anthony served on the committee of Mascot Netball Club for a number of years as treasurer, registrar and administrator. He coached multiple teams since 2001, sharing his sporting knowledge as a mentor in coaching and umpiring development. The time Anthony put into the club over the years is nothing short of incredible, and he continued to work on the club's committee following his cancer diagnosis in December. Anthony made a huge impact on hundreds of residents, players, club members during his time at the club. He was a friend to many, an inspiration and loved by all. He'll be sorely missed. On behalf of council, I offer our deepest condolences to his family and friends during this difficult time, and also to members of the Mascot Netball Club. Thank you.
May you rest in peace. Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vale Alice McCann. Sadly, Alice McCann passed away earlier this month. An amazing woman, full of character, full of wit, and always told you straight. Even if you didn't want to hear it, you got it, and but it was always delivered with real care and honesty. And so Alice was the inaugural vice president of the Botany Historical Trust from 1994, and worked for over 20 years in the executive committee, giving her time to preserve and contribute to our local history, and such a great contributor she was. She was also the president of JJ Carl Memorial High School P&C for many years, and always gave her time to support those that were less fortunate, such as serving food at Christmas and those things. And really, she was a true Botany Bay person. She really cared for the area. Her knowledge of the local area was invaluable, and she was a life member and advocated for the preservation of the heritage and the promotion of the history. So on behalf of Council, we want to pass on our deepest condolences to her family and friends. Thank you.
Much rest in peace. Councillor Barlow?
Mrs. Dale, Dr. Peter Olovich. It was with deep sadness I report Dr. Peter Olovich passed away earlier this month. Dr. Peter Olovich was well known to Bayside residents as well as Botany Historical Trust members. He was an inaugural member of the Botany Historical Trust and was on the Heritage Committee. He led the project for the Botany Historical Trust to compile the history of place names in botany. He was also a member of the Ron Rathbone Local History Competition judging panel since the competition was inaugurated in 2006. Peter Olovich also worked as an archivist for the State Library of New South Wales, was an archivist of the Seabourn, Brereton and Walford Foundation Theatrical Library. Dr. Olovich was also a founding member of the Geographical Names Board, where he made a significant contribution to the identification and research of historic names across New South Wales. He also played a key role in the Anzac Memorial Place Names Project, assisting the Geographical Names Board to identify 1,701 hometowns of enlistees for the First World War. I also want to add one comment, was that last year was he retired from the being a judge on the Ron Rathbone Awards, and it was wonderful because one of the prize winners was actually one of his students, and he did say, "Thank you very much for giving me my love of history." So on behalf of Council, I offer our deepest condolences to his family and friends.
Thank
and
you.
If any other councillors would like to speak?
Councillor Muscat?
Thank you, Chair. My comments relate to Anthony. Both my girls had him as their coordinator. His two daughters were both to get married, and they brought their weddings earlier so that he could be there to give them away. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So all the family were devastated, especially his daughters. One of them, I knew their husband to be personally, and when they first announced it, it was only to family, and we had to wait until they were prepared to say something about Anthony. So he was a well-known Mascot netball coordinator, and he always had the kids' best interests. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Thank you, councillors, and may they all rest in peace. Next item, councillors, I'm delighted to report one of our councillors was elected, Councillor Werner, to the executive of the Australian Local Government Women's Association. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Werner, Greta Werner, on being elected to the executive of the Australian Local Government Women's Association New South Wales branch for a period of 12 months. Congratulations, well done. Councillors, the next item is apologies. We have two apologies from Councillor Douglas and Councillor Nagy. Do I have to move by Sooner, seconded by Councillor McDougall? I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Okay, next item is Disclosure of interest. We'll go around the table. Councillor Curry. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Muscat. Councillor Fardell. Councillor Jansen. Councillor Souness. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wilder.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, declaring interest on item 11. Actually, it's not 11.3. Yeah, sorry, 11.3, CP 24.017.
Yep.
Planning proposal, I declare conflict of duties in that item on the basis that I'm a delegate on the Sydney Eastern City Planning Panel. I will be leaving the chamber for the vote.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
That'll be noted. Councillor Barlow.
Item 11.4 CWA 24.007, outcome of the expression of interest lease campaign for 96 Much Avenue. It's a less significant non-pecuniary interest due that I'm a member of the Fix-It Sisters, which is an adjoining area to be leased.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hannah. Councillor McDougall.
As per the committee, item CWA 24.005, expression of interest, Muddy Creek Foreshore. As you can see there, less than significant non-pecuniary interest on the basis of the work of the Minister of Crown Lands. But out of an abundance of caution, I'll leave the chamber for consideration and voting on this matter.
Councillor Sedgwick. Okay, I have one on 11.4 CWA 24.005, expression of interest, Muddy Creek Foreshore. I've previously declared a significant non-pecuniary interest on this item, that some of the members of the clubs are members of my local branch of the ALP, and I will not be in the chamber when this item will be debated. Thank you for that. If I can have a councillor move the minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 27th of March. Moved by Councillor Hannah, seconded by Councillor Owada. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Councillors, there's two Merrill minutes. It's a very sad one. It was in relation to Westfield's Bondi Junction and the church leader attacks. And the motion, I'll read out. The council offers its deepest sympathies of the families and friends of the victims and condolences to everyone affected. The council acknowledges the work of our emergency services, doctors, nurses, retailers, community members who provided critical care at such a difficult time. On Monday, the 15th of April, council flags flew at half-mast as a tribute to the memory of the 6 wonderful people that were killed in this tragic event at Bondi Junction. I personally laid flowers on behalf of council at Westfield Bondi Junction to pay my respects and honour and mourn the victims of the tragic accident, and on behalf of the councils in our community. This was a senseless attack in open community space where people have the right to feel safe. It was a loss of life that our community in a state of shock, and many of us are still struggling to make sense of what took place. I would like to commend our first responders, police and paramedics, retailers, bystanders, as well as the ongoing efforts of doctors, nurses and hospitals who provided critical care in such a difficult time. Our thoughts are also with the church leaders injured during a knife attack at a recent church in front of horrified worshippers. There is no place for violence in our diverse and multicultural community. Our heart goes out to the people affected by this mindless violence. On behalf of council, I once again offer our deepest sympathies to the families and friends of the victims and condolences to everyone affected by these attacks. My heart goes out to another domestic violent murder that occurred this week, and we've spoken about it. This has to stop. And it's very, I'm sick and tired watching on television. We're losing a female one every week in this country. It's got to stop. And I'd just like to take an opportunity to have a minute's silence to honour those that lost their lives. So please, if everybody could stand. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The next one is a memorial minute for Superintendent Rowan Cramsey. If he could please come up. The motion is that Council commends and congratulates Superintendent Rowan Cramsey on his outstanding service as a commander of the St George Police Area Command and dedication to the residents of Bayside local government area. On behalf of Bayside Council and our committee, I'd like to congratulate Superintendent Rowan Cramsey for his outstanding service as a commander of the St George Police Area Command and dedication to the residents of Bayside local government area. Superintendent Rowan Cramsey, since his appointment to St George Area Command in May 2022, has worked closely with Council to help reduce crime and incidents, particularly in domestic violence. He has been developing a very strong relationship with our community, and this is experiencing working with a diverse multicultural community that we have. He has also worked with Council, offering help and support to many events: the trial closure of Bay Street, our summer foreshore program, our annual walk against family and domestic violence. On behalf of Bayside Council and the committee, I'd like to thank Superintendent Rowan Cramsey for his service to Bayside and wish him all the best in his future role. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no. I'll just ask the Superintendent to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors, General Manager and members of the community. Thank you very much for taking the time to acknowledge the work that I've done here in St George Police Area Command. Under the Pelian principles of policing, they talk about that the police are the community and the community are the police. And what that means is that we can't have a successful police force or police area without the support of those in the community and that support of council. And nothing is truer with Bayside Council. And whether it's been Christina Curry as a former mayor or Mayor Saranovsky as a current mayor, that relationship, in my view, is one of the strongest that we have in terms of police area commands and councils. And you don't get that everywhere. I've worked in a number of different police area commands, and we are very fortunate in our local Bayside area to have that relationship, which just gets stronger and stronger. But what I would also like to do is just very quickly appreciate and take note of the work that the young police women and police men do every day in our community. In some respects, my job is relatively easy. I sit in my office, I do a lot of transactional work with paper, and I reach out to the community when I need to. But it really is the young men and women, and when I say young, many of them are in their early 20s, who every day put their lives on the line for those in our community. And if there was ever a truer point, I think the last couple of weeks have really highlighted that over at Bondi and certainly at Wakeley. And but for the grace of God, neither one of those two incidents occurred here. But I just want to make note of the work that they do every day. It isn't easy. We don't always get it right, and I'm the first to acknowledge that. But by and large, the vast majority of the work that the police do in the command is very, very successful. And I think it's a testament to the young men and women that wear that blue suit every day. But again, thank you, Mr Mayor, for taking the time. It is much appreciated. and we'll miss you all working in Bayside Council. Thank you very much.
Before I present the certificate, would any councillor like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too stand to commend this. Superintendent Cramsey Rowan there's a lot of lists here that he's done an amazing job of, but I want to thank you specifically to all your hard work with Ward 5. From the time we first met, you were such a strong advocate of the community, of Bayside, of the St. George area, and every issue, whether it be the hooning or the speeding or the speed humps, Rowan, you were there for us. You listened to the community. I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart of all the work you've done, whether it be the break and enters right early on in 21-22 in a lot of the areas in the LGA, to the hooning, anything to do with Ward 5, and attending our community meeting with over 250 people. Thank you once again for opening your doors and being a wonderful advocate for the community. Thank you.
I'll say a few words too. It was a real pleasure working with you. You've really given a lot to this community. You've showed deep care for the community and contributed in so many ways. Your work in domestic and family violence has been exemplary. You were always there willing to, whether it was to talk at our Walk Against Domestic and Family Violence or our panel that we had online where we created more awareness and education about domestic and family violence. You were always happy to get involved in anything and contribute and really deal with the matters and fully available. And I know as a community, we've really appreciated you in that role, and we wish you all the best in your next journey. So thank you.
So I'll be very brief. I obviously echo all the words other councillors have said, as well as you, Mr. Mayor. But I just wanted to pick up on something that Superintendent Cramsey said about that connection between St George Local Area Command and Bayside Council. I don't think I've ever seen it as strong as it has been under Superintendent Cramsey's leadership, and that is really a testament to you and your whole local police force. You know, you've done a fantastic job. I've been so impressed at your leadership in the community, particularly at events like the Walk Against Domestic Violence, and just wish you all the best for your next steps.
Any other councillors? I'm inviting the councillors who like to participate in the photo. And we'll do the exemptions now, or probably fine. Right, next item, councillors, is items by exceptions. Councillor Curry, do you have any items you want to pull out? What was that, 10? Yep. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fardell, Councillor Jensen. 10.1, yep. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Sedgwick. Okay, thank you. So can I have someone move that the rest of the item with the exclusion of, there's one I have to abstain, not be in the chamber, with the exclusion of 11.4, which is CWA 24.005, and the item that Councillor Wada, 11.3. Yeah, so we'll have to, yeah, yep, yeah. All right, we've got 10.1, which is the Greek Festival. We've got the progress report on notice of motion. 11.3, which is the draft Riverine Park Master Plan. And we've got the, this item will have to be dealt with, the expression of interest Muddy Creek foreshore, and the planning proposal on CPE 24.017. I support, yeah. Okay, that's 14 point, yeah. Okay, 14.1. So if someone could move that these items, the rest of them be dealt with, Councillor Soon, seconded by Councillor Wada. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. All right, the first item is 10.1, the Greek Festival. Councillor Soon. Oh. Okay, sorry, I've got it the other, okay, on my restart. Okay, the public forum. Okay, we've got public forum. We have a number of speakers. 12.5, notice of motion for road share operators. I have Mr. Lewis Masakari. I hope I've got it right. Interested resident. Sir, if you could please come up. Yeah, Lewis, Jeff. Here too. Yep, so.
Okay, it's regarding Flora Street, Arncliffe. We're trying to get rid of the Ubers and the shuttle buses. What they're doing is they're leaving a lot of litter, and on top of that, they're leaving urine bottles in the gutters. What we're trying to do is change the sign to no parking, only permits only. If we can do that, it'll be good, because this is getting ridiculous. There's kids in the street. They're seeing people urining behind the trees, and this has got to stop. And also what we're trying to do is putting parking lines where the driveways are, because they're parking past the driveways. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, we're on this item, 12.5. Councillor Jansen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fardell. Councillor Jansen.
Thank you. I've got a addition to this, but I can't actually send it across yet because I'm still logged out, so I'll have to read it out. But thank you to Mr. Vaccarella for coming and speaking. I know it's not easy, and the reason why this motion is here is that because it has become an issue with rideshare drivers utilising the streets, and this is with the proximity of the airport to Walleye Creek. Rideshare drivers are naturally drawn to these streets for the strategic advantage in accessing and incoming and ongoing travellers swiftly. But also I've been made aware of material that one rideshare company is distributing to its drivers that maps out entry and exit points to the airport from what they name as the Uber holding lot. So the Uber holding lot is the entire quadrant bounded by Gertrude Street, Levy Street and Innisdale Road. There's also issues in Flora. This convenience comes at a cost, as residents have voiced legitimate concerns about traffic congestion, safety hazards and the overall strain on local infrastructure. And this is with no disrespect to the rideshare operators, that many of whom are residents that live in our own community. So I'm not saying it's their fault. So it's essential to listen to the concerns of the community and take proactive steps to address the situation. So as this matter originates from airport activity, I'm proposing the following addition to the motion. So I'm suggesting that this goes as point 2 and that point 2 becomes point 3. So point 2 is that Council approach Sydney Airport Corporation Limited to work collaboratively to provide constructive solutions to prevent local Walleye Creek streets being utilised as a holding lot by rideshare drivers. I'll give that wording. So I urge councillors to support this motion.
Councillor Fardell?
I've seconded the motion, as you know, because this has been a continuing problem for quite some time now. And Councillor Jansen and I have been very concerned. We've had many emails from local residents. They can't get in or out of their driveways. There's double parking along the whole street, which is quite dangerous, especially if children are trying to cross the road. People can't see them. As Mr. Vassarella said, there's rubbish and urination happening in the street because the car share drivers have got nowhere to go. So it's a really big problem. So for that, because of that, the residents have actually presented a petition, which I believe the General Manager has, and I'd like to table that because it really is a very big problem and it's continuing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow?
Just to make a comment, it would have been, Councillor Fardell was there. It was a shame a lot of the people weren't there last Wednesday night when we met the new CEO of Sydney Airport, who did present some solutions, suggested things, talked about the mill stream, talked about Sydney Water, and there was no one there except a few of us, and that was it. So it's a shame you missed his presentation, but they are aware of it. And possibly we'll be working with them, but it was just a shame that the people that have the problems weren't there to listen to him, especially on Millstream.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor McDougall?
Following that aside, I'd just like to praise the mover and seconder for bringing this motion. This was obvious, like I raised this previously in early 2020. Council obviously took swift action and the problem immediately stopped. There may have been other external factors that slowed down the demand for Ubers at the airport. But honestly, it is a major problem. This stops people accessing Carl Park on a weekend. You know, we've invested millions of dollars to make that a great open space. And unfortunately, and it's no fault of the rideshare drivers, this is what they're told to do. But it does mean that it's very difficult to get in and out of the park. It's very difficult for local residents. You know, it stops them having visitors, all of that sort of stuff. Any sort of advocacy we can do, we should really push for.
Thank you. Any other speakers before I want to reply? No. Okay. Just wanted to reiterate. Last week we had a meeting with the CEO, the new CEO of Sydney Airport. He undertook to come back to us. He's aware of the situation with the Uber drivers, and they're going to come back to us with a solution. So I sympathise with you. I've driven past there many times and seen the Uber drivers waiting there, doing those disgusting things that you've outlined on it. I'm confident after speaking to the CEO of Sydney Airport that we will come up with a quick solution. I congratulate the councillors for putting up the notice of motion. If there's no other speakers, Councillor Jensen, do you have the right reply? Or? All right, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. This was carried unanimously, sir. The next item is 12.6, notice of motion, investigate stormwater management at Gardner Park. we have two speakers here. We have first speaker, Ms. Leonie Lashel. I apologise if I've got it wrong. Teams. Hello?
Hello.
Yep, you've got allocated 3 minutes.
Thank you. I support this motion. The assessment for water, for stormwater in the park, does not seem adequate in that the water has collapsed after 2-3 years after the changes to the park has collapsed the heritage wall that stood for 90 years, which would indicate that perhaps the water assessment in the first instance with the changes to the park were not done correctly. And so I would really encourage that we have a better assessment which goes for a longer period of time, measuring the stormwater and how long it goes and the new pathways that it follows based on the differences of since the drain has been blocked up and changed and the water course has changed, and the council's own diagrams show that there's a deal of flooding on the Godfrey Street end of the park, and the water flows down to through the wall, which collapsed it, and into people's homes and backyards and in the front yards of the people on the lower side of Gardner Avenue. So I would hope that a proper assessment of the stormwater was made so that any changes and improvements will be long lasting and cost effective, so that we're doing something that will be correct for the circumstances that we find ourselves in and not based on a hope that has not been measured. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Garnett Brownbill. He also would like to speak on this item.
Two things before I start, please, councillors. At 7:22, you were emailed some questions that would be a part of my speech that would be sought to be through the chair. And given that I have 213 petition signatures here, I'd like to seek a minute extension with my speech. Would that be possible, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, you might regret that, Bill, but yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. It is with great sadness that I'm here in front of you today to discuss the flooding impacts evident at Gardner Park and the significant damage that has occurred to residential homes, properties, outbuildings, vehicles, and the collapse of a high significant heritage sandstone wall. It would be clearly apparent that the works undertaken to install the synthetic turf pitch have greatly increased the stormwater overflow at Gardner Park. The General Manager, councillors, council staff have been made well aware of this within presentations, emails and correspondence provided to them since September of 2020. The fact that this was identified within the consultant's reporting and the existing downstream infrastructure was inadequate due to the predicted future conditions should have raised alarm bells, but clearly it didn't. Consultants' reporting states that changes to the landform, increased ground levelling works, greater impervious surfacing, climate change and a plethora of other concerns led to there being far greater depths of water at Gardner Park, all in order to protect the synthetic turf surface. What a shame that that protection of the synthetic turf field had priority over people's homes and properties. Residents have raised on numerous occasions their concerns with the increased floodwaters in formal letters sent to Bayside Council, text messages, videos and posts to Facebook. Sadly, Council ignored community members and failed to heed or address the concerns that community members and specialised hydrological consultants had. Instead, council pushed ahead at the detriment of residents' homes, property, belongings, and of course the high significant heritage sandstone wall. Again, it is extremely difficult to comprehend why council ignored the concerns of the experts, the community members, some of whom are hydrological experts themselves, and in so doing endangered the lives and property of residents. Imagine if this was your home, councillors. Imagine if you knew what the community know. It would seem to have been a gross misjudgment and a failure of council to adequately assess the flooding impacts now present at Gardner Park. To this, consultants requested council to undertake further flood sensitivity modelling before starting this project. Did council do this? Again, councillors, this was emailed to you at 7:22. Hopefully you can ask these questions. If council did undertake this further modelling, why was it inadequate and failed to protect residents' homes, structures, vehicles and property? Structural engineers informed council to build a supportive concrete wall, 75 metres long, 1.8 metres wide and 1.6 metres high. Did council build it? Again, if they did, why was its construction inadequate and failed to protect the wall and residential properties? Heritage consultants also requested that to add additional, this is the concern or the quote from the consultant, to add additional level of reinforcement behind the wall, council would be required to build a supporting concrete structure so as to protect the heritage wall from damage. It would clearly seem that council failed to do this, or its construction was again clearly inadequate. Council staff signed a modified environmental assessment indicating that the original 75 metre concrete wall was no longer required and that only a 10 metre section, not the 75 metre, was now needed to protect the wall. Again, this would have obviously greatly reduced costs and the time needed to excavate. Was this wall, the 10 metre wall, constructed? If so, why did it fail? Can council please provide the declaration of compliance and the certificate of compliance for the structures that were built, being the design, the construction and installation for the no fines concrete wall as indicated and discussed tonight? Again, why, if this wall was constructed, did it fail? These are all very simple questions that need answers. Councillors, it is asked of you to seek through the chair, the response from council executives that addresses these concerns and provides in detail the reasoning for the failure of the wall. Community members want to know what went wrong and how council intends to address and mitigate the increased floodwaters at Gardner Park. Community members want to know why council is placing sporting infrastructure above their health, well-being and safety, and why council is endangering their lives and property. I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Winner, you have the floor. Do I have do I have a second now? Do I have a second now? Councillor Fardell, you have the floor.
Thank you. Look, I think that we can all agree. Is this on? Yeah, I think it is. I think we can all agree that something needs to be done about the drainage at Gardner Park. The rain event on the night of the 5th to the morning of the 6th of April this year was very intense, but to most people it was simply a big downpour. However, some people, for example on Boma Street, were actually flooded. This means throwing out belongings that have been damaged and a long cleanup process. It also means worrying about when the next downpour is going to be. Staff have reminded us that detail on overland flow and detention was modelled as part of the most recent upgrade to Gardner Park. However, we can see that the water moves around the park the way the water moves around the park has actually changed. Maybe the way it enters the park has changed too. As I understand it, any change in the types of surfaces in the park can change how water moves. So I did actually have a look at the modelling that was done prior to the installation of the synthetic field. And I've also seen the opinion of an independent hydraulics engineer that said while the changes made slight improvements to the flow of water leaving the site, it drastically changed the flow of water within the site. However, this modelling did not actually take into account changes due to climate change and so on. So I think that really needs to be taken into account. And it really seems out of date now, given what has actually happened in that area. Now, there's also a large drain, a very deep drain, just above the place where the wall collapsed. And there's a lid which actually comes off that drain when the water flow is really strong. It's a very large and heavy lid, but the force of the most recent flood must have been really huge to move that. I'm concerned that this lid is washed off every time we have a flood like this, exposing a deep and dangerous drain, which is not safe until council staff come along and place the lid back in its place. So this is another concern that, that the community also has. It's good that the council will receive technical advice on how to fix the heritage wall, but I hope it will also receive heritage advice and updated advice on water flows around the park. Thanks, and I hope you support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Any other speakers? Councillor Fardell?
I support this motion because we live not that far away from the park, and it is a big problem, but this is a problem everywhere now. The once in 100-year floods are becoming once in 10-year floods, and, you know, climate change is affecting so much. I can't see the harm in investigating what the engineer initially recommended, and if that was followed, and if it wasn't followed, why wasn't it followed, and what the recommendations are for moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barlow?
Just a couple of comments. I mean, my daughter used to play hockey there 40 years ago. It flooded then. I think going up downstream, I believe that our engineers went out and checked a lot of the houses or the residents. Maybe they didn't go to Beaumont Street. But
No, Garnett, please.
beg your pardon. Well, I will ask you.
Please.
But you don't have to tell me. Anyway, my issue is that I believe, okay, it was a dry stone wall, so it had that, could have collapsed, and it wasn't steady anyway, because it had no strengthening to it. But the overland flow, I think, has changed, but I think it's come from up higher. And this is where the problem is, and I did mention it when I spoke to Mr. Barrenville, that I get overland flow because all the houses behind me are concreting everything. And this is where a lot of the problems are. Now, it's not an issue of, a lot of it issues, everyone had grass or garden beds, you'd have a lot more water being absorbed. Now, that was a very unusual flood. We saw photos. I have never seen cars being lifted off Warrialda Street into the middle of Fry's Reserve. The Range Rover was lifted into the canal in Oliver Street. But then the one I saw on Facebook was Bardwell Park Station with the water that actually poured down through. And if there had been a train there, that would have been taken off the rails because the water flow was incredible. And I believe there was a flood, and there was somewhere in Verdon Street, there was a place in Verdon, they always flood, but then the flood went through to the next block in Beaconsfield Street, which has never happened before. So it was an extremely unusual rain event which came down all in one go. But I feel there's got to be an issue of a lot of things, but you've got to have some absorption in everybody's property, which would help, especially upstream.
All right, thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Warner, you have the right of reply. All right, no problem. Okay, thank you. I'll put the motion. All in favour, say aye. Those against? I'll declare it carried. The next item in the public forum is 12.7, notice of motion, cut military ties with Israel. We have two speakers. Ms. Alana Abdurra, I apologise if I've got the surname wrong. Hannah, if you could come up, please.
Good evening. It's the second time you get my name wrong, but you apologise this time, so thank you. My name is Hala Abdelnour, and I want to first acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're all gathered on tonight and pay my respects to the elders, past and present. One of the things what I did today is I woke up this morning and I went off to deliver gender equity training to another local council who's invested in family violence prevention. I then rushed home for back-to-back meetings all afternoon, which didn't finish till 6 p.m. I barely had time to eat. I'm hypoglycemic, I'm shaking with hunger, and I was supposed to go to church tonight with my cousin because we're in the Great Lent period for Easter. But instead I'm here. And the reason I'm here, well, there's a lot of reasons I'm here, we don't have time for them in 3 minutes, but I'll focus on the main things. I'm here because I didn't have to dodge missiles today. I didn't have to pick up any body parts of my family members. I didn't have to dig anyone out of rubble, and I didn't deliver a baby out of a dead corpse. I'm here because my family in Lebanon is petrified about their fate and have no idea what to do with their children or where to send them or how to get out of that country. I'm here because I live with the guilt that I've lived with for about 30 years since we arrived in Australia, of having survived, of having fled Israeli military attack. I'm here because when I was 3 years old, Israel decided that they're going to wipe out the village I was living in. They murdered my grandfather. They attacked our village from land, air, and sea and turned it into rubble. We then fled to Beirut, which they decided also belonged to them, so they invaded Beirut and occupied it from 1982 to 1984. In 1984, I was in a hotel with my mum's side, the entire side of the family, because they didn't have houses in Beirut, so as refugees, they lived in hotels in Beirut. We were there visiting them because they were all fleeing, some to Australia, some to Canada, some to the United States, and some to France. And whilst families were spending time together in this hotel, Israel attacked it and turned it into rubble. I don't even know how I'm alive to come here and tell you this. I ended up living in a country where I work and pay taxes like everybody else, and I have to live every day knowing that my taxes fund the Israeli military. It funds the terror that my family lives with. It funds my childhood memories and my post-traumatic stress that I have having lived in a war zone. It doesn't take much. If we're sick of the violence, I've heard so many men in suits this week say, I'm sick of the violence. I'm sick of violence against women. Are you sick of the violence against Palestinians, Lebanese, innocent civilians around the world? I'm sick of the Australian government funding this. I'm sick of my own taxes being used to fund a genocide. And I ask you to take a stance, at least in this council. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the same item, Ms. Denise Abdelhamid.
Good evening. My name is Denise Abu Hamad. I also acknowledge that we are on stolen Aboriginal land. I'm a Bayside resident, a mother, and a Lebanese, like fellow Hala here. And I won't reiterate the facts that were stated in the motion. Councillors can read that for themselves, but I do want to register my strong support for it. This week, the Israeli Defence Force bombed a family home in Rafah, the previously designated safe zone in Gaza. Sabrine was 7.5 months pregnant. Her 3-year-old daughter Malak was killed, and so was her husband. She was rushed to hospital but could not be saved. Her baby was delivered via an emergency C-section, prematurely out of her dead body. The child was named Ruh, which means soul. I ask the council to sit with that story just for a moment. Think about what that mother must have felt, losing her husband, her toddler, taking her last breaths, not knowing what would happen to her unborn child. Feel that pain, feel her pain for just 5 seconds. It's unbearable. But this is just one story of tens of thousands of stories. 14,000 children killed, 10,000 women killed, among them 6,000 mothers. 19,000 children left orphaned. And that's not even mentioning men and fathers who are just worth just as much. And it's perhaps entirely possible that the airplane that dropped that bomb on Sabrina and her family contained components made and manufactured in Australia. And the federal government has refused to acknowledge its role in this horror. And so I ask this council to listen to its residents and to represent them and to write to the federal government requesting that, as per this motion, that we stop exporting weapons to Israel and we stop buying and giving contracts to their weapons manufacturers. It's been 3 months since the ICJ found that there's a plausible case of genocide being committed by Israel against the Palestinians. And this means that all signatories to the convention, Australia included, have a duty to take measures to prevent acts of genocide. And this is what this motion is asking for, plain and simple. All it is asking council to take a position to tell the federal government not to contribute to this horror. It's the bare minimum. As a resident of this beautiful and multicultural council, I do want my council to represent its people, to represent me, and to understand that peace is everybody's business at every level of government. And we must all do what it takes to end this horror and the killing and the maiming and the starvation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're on 12.7. Notice the motion. Councillor Werner. Do I have a seconder?
I move the motion.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, I'm sorry, there's no seconder. That motion elapses then. Thank you. Okay, we're back onto the agenda. 10.1. Councillor Souness.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the Greek Festival and the Greek community for bringing this matter to us. It's been long in the tooth a little bit. It should have happened earlier so we could get our ducks in order, but it is what it is, I guess. In future, they could probably help us out with budgeting and so on, but it's great to see the event coming back to Brighton. We acknowledge that it's been here in the past over many, many years, and it is coming back. Hopefully in the future, they'll do it again next year. We can iron it out a bit earlier, iron out all the things that we've come to learn over the past few years with the closing of Bay Street. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I do have a seconder. Councillor McDougall. Yep. Councillor Sedrak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to commend your efforts in doing this, Mr. Mayor, and the previous Mayor, Councillor Curry, for all their work. This is a dream come true. I think, no doubt, like Councillor Souness said, for the Greek community, for the community of Brighton, this is an amazing achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, on the 26th of May, we ask that everybody come out and support this. This is what we love. And this is what we have been working on for years and years and years, to revitalise Brighton Les Sands, to make it this vibrant jewel of the crown. And this is what it's all about. I want to thank the committee that were involved in this, the Greek Orthodox Committee, Ania and the group. I think this is going to be an amazing event. I can't wait for it. I hope it stays at Brighton for a very, very long time. Thank you.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd just like to echo the words of fellow councillors. I will correct, I believe they're called the Greek Orthodox Community. I imagine the Greek Orthodox Committee is probably they're the committee of the Greek Orthodox community. It feels a bit Monty Python, but I wouldn't want to get that wrong. But I'm really looking forward to this event coming back to Brighton. I can't say I personally experienced the original Greek festival at Brighton, but I'm very excited for this. I think it'll be a fantastic event. I know that many councillors would have gotten out to our Ramadan Nights event on Wall Street. These really bring the community together, and they're well worth supporting by council.
Thank you. Any, Councillor Barlow?
I'll just make a comment that seeing the, I think Councillor Sooner said they were a little bit disorganised. Well, they were disorganised because they didn't get to the traffic committee on time. I do recall that. I'm hopefully they don't come back. They've already asked for money and then say we can't afford to do whatever they've got to do, because that's what happened last time. And you would remember, we ended up with a bill because they refused, they didn't have the money to do all the waste or something. I can't remember at all. So hopefully this lot are more organised. They weren't organised getting it to traffic on time, so that's a worry. But anyway, hopefully it works out, and they get it into the budget next year if they do it again.
Any other speakers? If not, I'll just want to add a couple of things, if I may. I want to thank the staff for their quick action in taking on board and being on a positive note in terms of this festival. Even though it's called the Greek Festival, it's not specifically designed solely for the Greek community. It is also for our broader community, and I encourage all our residents to come and share in the experience of the community spirit. I was around, as you know, I'm elder statesman here. I recall when they first came to Brighton, because Brighton was the hub of the Greek Australian members of our community. It is a great privilege for them to come back to Brighton. I know the time frame, and Councillor Barlow, you're 100%. The time frame is was a bit short, but I also need to acknowledge, and I know he's a very humble person, Councillor McDougall, for behind the scenes of organising meetings, and one must never forget the our local member, Mr. Steve Camper, is as Minister for Multiculturalism and Sport and Crown. Is very much committed to this project. It's an opportunity for our community to get together. I can assure you, those that have never been to the Greek Festival, it is a great atmosphere. There's so many different types of foods, and it will just restore, I believe, the crown and the jewel for us is Brightly Sands. It will just restore that again. Obviously, we'll have some teething problems, parking, but I'm excited because it's great to bring community spirit. It's like the opening of Gardner Park next weekend, so Saturday week. I like those kind of events because it brings the community together. So I want to congratulate again the staff, particularly General Manager and Christine Stamper and all her crew for getting on board. It has been funded by the state government to a large amount that was committed by Mr. Camper last year. So I believe that it'll be a great success. Hopefully it won't rain, and I encourage everybody to come. Councillor Souness, you have the right reply. Thank you. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Next item is 10.3, which is progress report on councillor notice of motions. Yeah, moved by Councillor Curry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morrissey. Speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question in relation to 12.7, the motion about writing to Hillsdale Shopping Centre about them fixing up the state of the shopping centre because it's disgraceful, and getting a timeline on when they plan to commence building, seeing that it was a shovel-ready project from years ago, which is why they got approval. Can you, has this letter been sent, Mr. Mayor?
All right, Mr. Barber.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it has been sent.
Excellent. Can we please have a copy tomorrow? Thank you.
All right. Councillor Hannah.
I was actually going to pull this number out before Councillor Curry beat me to the punch, because I felt like I had to rise to this, because I think this really has got to be said, even though it's quite uncomfortable for me to say this in the chamber. This actually seems to have developed into something quite useful. And we've now got 31 matters on here, and we're now actually in a position where councillors and members of the public that are interested in the progress of these notices of motion have something that they can refer to fairly quickly. So, Mr Mayor, I just can't quite remember who put forward this original proposal, but perhaps if we could dig that out, they may be entitled to some sort of mayoral award. And I'm now starting to think maybe a similar report on councillor CRMs might be something worthwhile. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I wonder who'd be the winner. Councillor Jansen.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just in relation to 12.1, the historical sites project, it does say there's been a status change and it was extended to the 25th of March. What are the next steps with that? Are those nominations being assessed and will receive a report to committee at some stage, or? Thank you.
The Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, the applications are being assessed and they will go to committee as a report with recommendations.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, can I just ask how many were received? Because it said that the response was quite low and hence it was extended. So do you know what the final tally was?
I don't have the final tally, but I believe it was around 15.
Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. We're now on 11.3, which is CPE 24-013, the draft Riverine Park Master Plan. No, not this one. No, not this one. No. Councillor Winner, you've pulled it out. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder?
It's just about Riverine Park.
Councillor Handler, seconded. Councillor Winner?
Yeah, thank you. I've just got a question for the director, and sorry if this has already been answered because I did look through my emails, but I didn't see it. So the master plan has got a frog pond next to Spring Creek, and I just wanted to know, just because the green and golden bell frog, it turns out it actually needs fresh water, and there's concern in the community that that water might be too close to the salt water, but I just wanted to know whether you know where the water's coming from. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The project to naturalise the Spring Street drain is a related but separate project, so we're still working on that. The wetland that's to the north of the road into Riverine at the moment does exchange tidal water, so it is brackish. The ecologist working on that is actually looking at re-engineering that so that it's a freshwater wetland to accommodate those kind of species. Otherwise, the freshwater that they normally enjoy, I guess, is up in the Eve Street wetland, which is completely freshwater. So yeah, that's still a work in progress, but yeah, we're aware of that issue.
Thank you.
Councillors, there's a suggestion from the director. There's an amendment that the draft Riverine Park Master Plan is endorsed for public exhibition in May 2024. And two, the council acknowledges and supports the opportunity to apply for a grant under the Metropolitan Green Space Program to part fund the proposed bike track and playground upgrade adjacent to West Botany Street. That's the suggested amendment. I'll get the general manager just to explain.
Councillors, last week we became aware that there was a grant that we can apply for. There's a short time frame to make that application. It's a Metropolitan Green Space grant. It's 50-50 funding, and the proposed bike track and playground, which are adjacent to West Botany Street, would meet the criteria, would be eligible under the grant. What we're suggesting is that if we can add the words that the Mayor just read out, support the opportunity to apply for a grant under the Metropolitan Green Space Program to part fund the proposed bike track and playground upgrade adjacent to West Botany Street, we will then make that application and we'll come back to you if we're successful.
As the mover, I accept that amendment.
Okay, and the seconder, I think. So how?
Sounds fantastic. Let's try and grab it.
Yep. All right. If no speakers, I'll put it all in favour. So aye. Those against no, declare it carried. The next item is, Jay, you'll have to leave. CPE 24.017, proposed planning agreement for 1637, 1639, 1647, Botany Road, Botany. It's a planning agreement, has to be a division. All those, Councillor Curry, for the planning agreement. Oh, sorry, mover, do I have a mover now? Moved by Councillor Morrissey, I'll second it. For or against? That's the planning, we're on a roll. Mr. Barber, can you enlighten us? Is this the laneway? Is this the laneway? Yeah, yep. Okay, so, minute. Okay. Anyone wants to speak to it? Okay, Councillor Curry? Councillor Morrissey? Councillor Muscat? Councillor Fardell? Councillor Jansen? Councillor Souness? Councillor Werner? Councillor Barlow? Apparently it's back lane. Right. Okay, Councillor Hannah? Councillor McDougall? Councillor Cedric? And myself for, I declare it carried unanimously. If someone could call the Deputy Mayor back. Oh, Joe? Yep.
Okay, that's quick, wouldn't it? That's a good one. Muddy Creek. Councillors, we're on 11.4 minutes of the City Works and Assets Committee meeting held on the 10th of April 2024. We're dealing with item CWA 24.005, expression of interest, Muddy Creek foreshore. And I think there's a motion. That was the committee. Could I have... And that's I'm told that's being pulled out because there's a conflict of interest. The mayor had a conflict of interest. And Councillor McDougall. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Number 5 and 6. Moved by Councillor Souness. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jansen. All in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Thank you so much, councillors. We'll call Councillor Solonovsky and McDougall back in.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, no, no.
Okay, the next item is CWA 24.007, outcome of expression of interest for 96 Much Avenue, Koima. I believe Councillor Barlow.
It's less than significant.
Oh, it's good. Oh, okay. All right, I've got it marked here. All right. Then if I follow my spreadsheet,
It's a question. So, the 96, it's the new resolution that we all received, was it, for that one? Yeah, that's all.
So, through the mayor, what you received from the director was a summary of the discussions that were held with the hockey club. I think if we could get up the governance, is it possible to see the recommendation from the committee on this particular item, CWA 24.007, because you may want to update the recommendation based on the discussions that have now been held.
so we're going to have to.
Have we not got any? Have we got no visuals? Can I read this?
Yeah, councillors, the general manager would like to read out the recommendation.
That's not the. That's not.
Well,
Sorry, can we just get the minutes from, that's not what we've determined, the minutes? That was the recommendation.
Okay.
It's not what we've adopted.
why don't we go to the notice of motions, and when we sort out the technical issues, we'll come back to it.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Okay, we're on the notice of motions, the 12.1, which is by Councillor Curry and Morrissey Muscat, Grace Campbell Playground. Moved by Councillor Curry, seconded by Councillor Morrissey. Any speakers? Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a playground which is in the vicinity of a lot of low-rise residential units and has a really large population of little ones that have moved into the area. And the opportunity, the playground there is quite nice. And the opportunity to have a bit of a scooter and bike park will be really valued by the community there and the little children. And I just want to raise in relation, it's nothing on the screen?
No.
Sorry, okay. I just want to raise in relation, there's a big wall that's graffitied there and I did raise it over a year ago that there was an issue with something on the mural, and I just want to acknowledge the Director of City Presentation who ensured that what was on the mural and was inappropriate was removed, and therefore I would like to add that that mural be undertaken as a project with our youth services, because our youth centre is only a short walk from there as well, because I think something more appropriate could go there, particularly with the young children, because it's not really appropriate. So if we could just add on there, number 6, please, that a youth services project be undertaken to create a new appropriate mural on the existing wall in consultation with community. Thank you.
Okay. Do we get all that? Okay, yep. Any other speakers?
Through
Councillor
you,
Howard.
Mr Mayor, if I can just ask maybe the movers or the crafters of this motion, when you talk about scooters, are we talking about electric scooters? And if we are talking about electric scooters, I mean, I know this is only the notice of motion and this can be all firmed up, but I think we have to be really, really careful with this stuff, that we don't develop something that's unsafe. And bikes, these fat bikes, modified fat bikes, modified electric scooters catching fire all the time. So I think I'm in favour of it, but I think when it gets to the point of actually designing it, we make sure that we've got 100% absolute control over what goes on there. Perhaps we could regulate that non-motorised. Yep, thanks.
All right, we'll certainly do that. All right, any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Next one is notice of motion by Councillors Curry and Morrissey. Upgrade of Mascot Park. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Morrissey, seconded by Councillor Jensen. Speakers? Councillor Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Seeking support for an upgrade to Mascot Park. This is adjacent to a very large development that we all know in the East Gardens area. The population is growing and density is increasing. There is certainly enough room at Mascot Park. We've invested significant funds there over recent years when they're really well utilised, and we're seeking to expand on that. My understanding, there is VPA available in our reserve funds, so it's great to access and unlock some of those reserve funds to present something worthwhile and valued by the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Yeah, just a comment, Mr Mayor. With stuff like this, I'd really like to see our memorial tree policy, in brackets, memorial seat policy, perhaps advertised a little bit, because it may well be that we can actually get defray the costs, with memorial seats. And the memorial seat policy is now in place. It'd be great when we're doing these upgrades if we could just encourage that a little bit and maybe advertise a little bit. You never know who might come out of the woodwork. It'll help defray the costs. So I just wanted to make that comment. Yeah, if the movers and the second are happy to add that.
Yep, everyone's.
But yeah, that council
Promotes.
That council promotes the opportunity to apply for memorial seats in this park as part of the upgrade. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this playground, the existing playground's been there for decades, and it's well past its use by date as well. And I thought of you today, Councillor Hannah. I was at Centennial Park, and when you enter Centennial Park near Moore Park, there's a great big sign there that says, "Purchase your memorial bench." And I sat on one of the benches in there and read the plaque's literally this big. But it had a big sign, so they're promoting it. Thanks.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, very hard to get these things through when you're actually on the back bench, but nevertheless.
All right, if no other speakers, I'll put it all in favour, so aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Next notice of motion is Councillor Curry and Jansen, Strange Park play space renewal. Moved by Councillor Jansen, seconded by Councillor Curry. Any speakers? Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So once again, our ABS data is showing us that the number of families with small children is increasing around the Mascot area, and the Lestrange play space is well loved and popular, but the current play space is so well utilised, its wear and tear have become quite evident, especially with the construction of the recently launched amenities block nearby. So a renewal is not only necessary, but also an opportunity to enhance the accessibility, inclusivity of the play space. Also happy to add point 3, Councillor Hannah, regarding memorial seats and benches, if you like. Yep, okay, so can we copy paste point 3? Thank you.
The Minister Secretary, do you have that? Point 3.
Copy paste the memorial seat. Yep, yep. From the one before, yep.
The same, cut and paste, yeah. Councillor Barlow.
No, just a comment, I suppose, because there's 4 of them, that I'm a bit concerned that you want all these in the budget 24, 25. There's already a list that's already there, so you believe that the list has to now change?
Councillor Barlow, it's VPA money, so...
Yeah, no, but it's not it's the VPA, but the staff still has to be able to do it. They have to do the design, they have to do everything else. So the thing is any of the work that's already proposed in the budget now going to be affected by the new proposals? Because I've got a list of the others. There's some in all wards that might get all overlooked. I've got one in my ward that's... The kid was 4 when he...
In response to that, Councillor Barlow, there's a report going to come back to June's committee meeting, so I'm sure that will be looked at. All right, if no others... Yeah. All right, if there's no other speakers, I'll put it all in favour, side. Those against no, declare it carried. Okay, the next one's notice of motion by Councillor Curry and Jansen. Can I have a mover, Councillor Jansen, seconded by Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So change of tact here. I'm going to actually read out some words from some of the residents who have sent me correspondence in relation to Linear Park, which is also one of our many jewels in the crown. And this one is a jewel in the crown for the Mascot Station Precinct residents. So the first correspondence is from Maddie Sutton, who's a resident there. So she says, "My name is Maddie Sutton. I'm a Mascot resident, a daily user of Linear Park and a dog mum. My primary concern is for the safety of myself and my fellow residents when using the park, with a particular focus on the safety of dogs in the area. Mascot Precinct is an area densely populated due to the large number of residential high-rise apartments. As of 2023, there are approximately 13,500 residents within a 0.3 kilometre area. It's basically a concrete jungle, with the exception of Linear Park, hence the jewel in the crown, which extends from the corner of O'Riordan Street to Coward Street in 3 sections, crossing Church Avenue and John Street. Being a resident in Mascot has become a nightmare due to the decisions made for multiple one-way streets, multiple no right turn streets, and the absurd reworking of John, Burke and Coward Streets, where traffic lights and pedestrian crossings have been removed. Frankly, you now take your life in your own hands when you walk across any of these streets. As a result of the road issues in Mascot Precinct and a result of the concrete jungle that has grown up in this area, Linear Park is the only green space in Mascot Central where you can walk with your families or walk with your dogs and have a modicum of safety. However, Linear Park has 3 sections of park which, to traverse, requires crossing one of two roads, either John Street or Church Avenue. The crossings between the three sections of the park on Church Avenue and John Street are dangerous for pedestrians, especially children and dogs. Urgent steps need to be taken to make these crossings safer. So Ms Sutton further details her concerns, but I'll summarise. So there are safety concerns. The safety concerns are multifaceted and pose risks to pedestrians, particularly children and dog walkers. Issues include poor visibility due to parked cars and dips in the road leading to potential accidents. Additionally, illegal activities such as bike riding in the wrong direction exacerbate the dangers. Linear Park's location, bordered by roads on all sides, heightens risk for children playing and pedestrians navigating the area. Urgent action, such as installing fencing along Linear Park, is necessary to mitigate these safety hazards and ensure the well-being of residents and visitors. So another letter from another resident, Miss Rachel Peavy. Rachel's lived in Central Mascot Station Precinct for over 6 years. She's a mother and dog owner and deeply affected by the current safety conditions around Linear Park. I write this letter in support of from a personal place of loss, which has had a profound impact on my family, especially on my child. Our former family dog, Dobby, was more than a pet. He was a cherished member of our family and a companion to my daughter. His untimely death while crossing Church Avenue on the 26th of June 2023 at 5:45 p.m. during a time when visibility was low has left an indelible mark on us. This devastating incident has highlighted the dire need for basic safety measures around Linear Park that are currently lacking for dog owners and pedestrians. The loss of Dobby has been a tough lesson in the risks posed by the roads intersecting Linear Park. The blurred lines between the park and the road, exacerbated by poor lighting, parked cars obstructing the view, illegal double parking, and the absence of a clearly marked pedestrian crossing at the crest of the hill where both roads meet the park. The impact on my child, who has had to face the reality of such an avoidable loss, drives home the urgency of these measures. It's a stark reminder that the safety of our community, our children and our beloved pets should be a priority. So Rachel writes some more information. So I'll be tabling both letters tonight, I hope. So the full letters I will hand over to governance to table. So to summarise, Linear Park in Mascot near the railway station is a vital green space offering recreation, relaxation and environmental advantages in this densely populated area. With these additional improvements that are asked for in the motion, it can become more of a thriving community hub, facilitating social activities and neighbourly connections among residents from the nearby apartments in a safe way. Thank you. So I urge you to all support this.
Well said. Any other speakers? Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm very happy to support the upgrade of this jewel in the crown of Mascot. Just a comment, and I know we want to get out of here, and we all have an early morning tomorrow morning. But this isn't even the only linear park in the council area. I think we have 2 linear parks in Bayside, and there are many others across Sydney. And I believe, like this linear park, the other one was also gifted to us by a state government agency without a lot of creativity. I'm not suggesting we do anything now. Perhaps when we're doing reviews of names, I suggest that linear parks are prime for naming after perhaps significant local residents or other relevant matters, rather than describing what they are.
Well, thank you. If there's not, Councillor
No, just make a comment that the lady, that lost her dog, but you're going to put fencing around it, but it can't be an off-leash dog park, from what I've gathered, because of the pollution, the ground. So as long as you have the fencing around there, but you also have it as off-leash, because the dog, it's the same. That the problem is it's contaminated land, and you don't want the dogs digging. So I'm assuming that's what it's for. Because otherwise then it becomes a pseudo one, and I don't know how, if they're on leash, they should be safe. at all times.
If there's no other speakers, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Now we're back on to CWA 24.007, which is the outcome of expression of interest, lease campaign to 96 Much Avenue, Koima. I'll just get the General Manager.
Through the Mayor. So councillors, you'll recall that at the committee, the staff recommendation was to decline the offer by Randwick Hockey Club, St George Randwick Hockey Club. The subsequent discussions that have been held with the Hockey Club, we received an email about that. So the revised recommendation that we're suggesting to you tonight is that the subsequent offer of $14.50 per annum from the St George Randwick Hockey Club to create a gym exercise area for their players be accepted, noting that the club has agreed to invest $18,000 into upgrading the building in their first year of tenancy.
Okay, councillors, that's the suggestion. Do you want to move that, Councillor McDougall? Moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Barlow. Oh, okay, Councillor Sedrak. Any speakers? Sedrak, yeah.
I've just got a question. So are we changing the minutes?
No, with the recommendation. Not the minutes.
Okay.
All right, if there's no speakers, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Questions with notice? And we've got one.
Just
Councillor
with
Curry.
questions without notice, I asked a couple of questions like 2 meetings ago, and there was basic, simple questions. So if they are, can we get a response?
Curry's raised 2 questions 2 months ago. All right. We'll get onto it. Not tomorrow, but maybe Friday or Monday of next week. Councillors, we need to go into confidential session as it's a commercial a proposed purchase of land requisition.
Sorry, I just sent some questions with notice to the governance team. I just didn't realise we were doing that now, but
Okay,
could we do that before we go into the...
All right, if we can have questions up on the screen. Is that the only one?
Oh, I thought I'd changed some of them.
No, we can't talk.
Yeah, I think I did change it.
The reality is that it's there to grind.
That's true. That's true, but it might come again. It might be more. Yeah, I think I did sort of I think that is what I sent through. Yeah.
Councillors, as it relates to a proposed purchase of land reserved for acquisition, if someone can move it, we go into confidential session, and if we can ask the members of the public to leave. Thank you for coming.